At the height of their fame in 1966, the Beatles made a bold and unexpected move that stunned fans around the world. They decided to stop touring altogether. Their sudden exit from the stage left a void where their charisma, energy, and legendary performances once thrived. Yet, that retreat became a creative turning point, freeing them to approach music in an entirely new way. The decision to step away from the spotlight led to the creation of some of their most iconic work, much of which was conceived without any intention of ever performing it live. Walking away from touring allowed the Beatles to ignite a musical revolution on their own terms, and it's safe to say the world is better for it. By the mid-1960s, Beatlemania had evolved into something far more chaotic and dangerous. What began as flattering adoration from screaming fans and packed stadiums eventually spiraled into a volatile environment that put both the band and their audience at risk. In 1966, the band embarked on an intense tour schedule that took them through Germany, Japan, and the Philippines in just 3 weeks, all under constant media scrutiny. Soon after, they launched into a grueling 18-date tour across North America in August. This leg of the tour was marred by tension, largely due to John Lennon's controversial remark that the Beatles had become more popular than Jesus. The backlash was swift. Radio stations banned their music, protests erupted, and fans publicly burned their records across the US. Lennon would later clarify that he hadn't intended to offend religious communities, but the message behind his words remained a stark reflection of their fame. The Beatles had become cultural icons, commercial products, and, increasingly, targets. Lennon's offhand comment carried a deeper truth, that the band members were no longer living normal lives. They were cut off from the outside world, trapped by their celebrity status. The concern wasn't just about being mobbed by screaming fans anymore, it was about real danger. According to Ringo Starr, as featured in the Beatles anthology, he eventually reached a breaking point. He recalled how audiences no longer seemed to care about the actual music, and while that had been manageable in the beginning, by 1966 it was disheartening. They were performing poorly, and they all knew it. Their final live show took place at San Francisco's Candlestick Park. There, all 4 members unanimously agreed it was time to stop. They had outgrown the stage, and touring no longer offered anything meaningful creatively or emotionally. In their early years, performing live had been central to the Beatles' identity. Their charisma on stage fueled the frenzy of Beatlemania and cemented their global appeal. But as that frenzy turned sour, they found refuge in the recording studio, a space where they could experiment, reflect, and create without pressure. Freed from the demands of live performance, the Beatles entered a new creative era. Their first post-tour release was the groundbreaking Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band in 1967, a concept album that transported listeners into a world of psychedelic wonder and limitless imagination. The complex orchestration, studio overdubs, and tape manipulation techniques they used made the songs nearly impossible to recreate on stage with the same impact. This shift proved how stepping away from the public eye allowed them to reimagine what pop music could be. Another crucial factor in their decision was financial. Years of successful touring had given them enough income to stop worrying about commercial viability. They no longer needed to tour to make a living. When Sgt. Pepper's was released, it sold 250,000 copies in the UK during its first week alone. Since then, it has sold over 32 million copies globally, making it the best-selling album of the 1960s. With that level of success, the band gained full creative control, allowing them to shape their output without compromise. This creative freedom led to even bolder projects, most notably the White Album, which took their experimentation further by incorporating elements of progressive rock and free-form psychedelia. Ultimately, the decision to quit touring wasn't the end of the Beatles' story. It was the beginning of their most influential era. By withdrawing from the public stage, they reclaimed their ability to hear themselves think, write, and grow. In making their world smaller, they amplified their sound, forever altering the course of music history.